fam, welcome back to the FNCS Summit. We got Mini Miner, we got 11-2K, and for a moment, I'm gonna put my NA bias mask on. NA on top, baby! NA on top! All right, sorry about that. I'm gonna take my NA bias mask off. Crazy stuff. Big W here. Mini help.
Big W here for...
Look, I'm happy for my boys, because it's a great win.
Yep.
It's great, and they needed that, especially with all the question marks around them being NA's last hope. It's a good sign of what's to come, I think, for those two.
Yeah, really nicely played from these guys as well. I think they identified, of course, that the zone was going up on this absolutely gigantic hill. They took height really early, and I think if we've watched a lot, if you guys at home have watched a lot of Fortnite at the higher level, we've seen that if you take height early, Levin, it doesn't usually go too well. But because these guys still had so many of those builds, and more importantly, all the teams down below spent so many builds trying to get up that hill, they could just ride out for success here and did really well at it.
Yeah, and ultimately a comfortable game for these two, right? It's a very favorable zone. They didn't have to spend much of the game sort of running about all over the map, and it sort of gives them that sort of momentum as they get into the end game to play for height. We know it's something that Acorn can do, even if it isn't what his go-to strategy is. And, you know, Bolt said it in my interview with him. He believes Acorn is the best IGL in the world. That confidence to follow him and then deliver with the fragging, it's a great combination.
Dude, so sick to see this, right? Like, again, and what's tough, right, is there are so many incredible, like any duo in this lobby could win, and I'd be just amped, right? Because this is kind of like a sneak peek at what like a globals could look like. So to see them come out on top, massive stuff. Take a look at these beautiful standings. Yapto and Pans are currently sitting in that #1 spot. What's interesting as well, the teams just in front and just behind them fall early on, right? This is a huge window for them to make a move. And man, with duos like this,
Show us.
the moment you give them that opportunity, they will strike.
I
Yeah,
can't
that's
see
absolutely right. I mean,
anything.
they're making the most
Show
of
us.
those games, those early 2 games right there. 17 eliminations for them as well, Evan. This is a duo we've seen on EU performing very well here as well.
Okay,
I
never
think
mind.
Zeke might have pulled the trigger on the whole NA on top thing a bit too soon, better, because that was an EU team on top, broski. What's going on?
No, my NA bias mask is currently off.
Okay,
Right, that's
this one.
right.
It's fallen off quite quickly,
All right.
actually.
Yeah.
What happened
Hey,
there?
let me come back to EU. It's all good. I'll come back over. Yeah, anyway, seeing them all go crazy as well. And even in those last final moments, right? Seeing Vico super down low as a solo. Again, all of these singular interactions, these little decisions that every single player makes will make a difference, right? Because remember, we're just trying to stay in that top half of the leaderboard right now. And clutches like this are what we need.
Well, it makes a difference. I mean, remember at the beginning of the day, we were saying, Vico, you posted on socials, you were nervous at the beginning of the day, right? We're not seeing too many of those nerves right here. And a really, really important game for these guys. We saw it on the leaderboard right there. They jumped up 10 places by getting the 2nd place right here. And it wasn't easy for them, Levin, on the side of this hill. I just mentioned it. All those teams down below, these guys are one of them. Low on the materials, had to rely on their aim, which Vico is very good at. And ultimately, a very, very good game for them, making advantage of that zone.
Yeah, and I'm glad we get to see Vico strut his stuff a bit, because really and truly, there are not many players on this stage that are better fraggers than Vico. He is one of the elitist in the world, and if he was feeling any nerves like you were alluding to, Mini, they surely are gone now after that game.
I love that he mouthed it. I don't know if you can tell. He said, I tried. And you know,
really did.
He did. In that circumstance, man, you look up, you're like, yeah, this is a little bit cooked. Old Man Mountain did take his toll. But again, we just seen a handful of really good games back to back. And then we'll be okay, right? So I'm excited to see them. I appreciate that Vico, of course, he's pretty emotional, but he's very content. He's like, hey, he wasn't even like, oh man, I can't believe. He's like, yeah, I tried. You know, I did what I could. Sky and Stroll as well, another EU team though, going crazy. I'm excited to see more from them. But man, again, it's just like with so many names in this lobby, dude, it's just like, it's like a feast, right? It's awesome.
I was glad to see them make it a bit deeper, because that first game, Mini, it scared me.
Yeah.
We obviously watch EU, right, together.
A lot.
We're not used to seeing Sky and Stroll not deep into an endgame, and so I thought, I hope the occasion hasn't gotten to them. Clearly not, because this is exactly what Sky was doing when they won an FNCS on the EU. Clutching up in these endgames, in big moments, in uncomfortable situations, hitting shots like this. And again, we want to see more of it today.
And this is one of the things we were talking about all season long. Both of them are so good individually that no matter what one of them goes down, the other one still has all of the firepower necessary to clutch up. And that's what Sky just did right there. Yes, of course, it wasn't an amazing game for them. Yes, of course, they're not moving their way up in the leaderboard absolutely massively. But what is important for them is just keeping them in the tournament, keeping them inside, of course, that contention for the top 25. Because realistically, I mean, we expect these guys to qualify through. So when they make it to endgame as a duo, when the zone is on a massive hill, expect to see these guys on top.
And earlier with Tokata and of course Vivid, we kind of talked about the meta within the meta. What are you guys seeing now with about a minute out? Obviously, kind of what you called out, Sky and Skrull, dude, we're seeing them win games, we're seeing them go crazy, but suddenly we're finding ourselves in a solo clutch situation. It's got to be the quality of this lobby, right?
It's difficult. It's also very difficult to sort of predict what's going to happen in these lobbies. You play EU, you play the scrims, you know the teams around, you know how your drop spot's going to work, how they play Surge, and that's a key element of their strategy. But when you come up in this lobby against all these other regions playing their own styles, their own strategies, ultimately it's tough for them to predict what's going on.
I think as far as meta within meta goes, right? One thing we saw in Game 1 and here in Game 2 is teams who maybe we don't traditionally consider height teams being opportunistic, being aggressive towards height when getting favorable zones, right? Cold and Rapid, again, it was a zone where they had a bit more to work with than the rest of the lobby. They thought, let's take height. Same thing with Acorn and Bolts there. If you are a team who maybe you don't usually play height, if you had a favorable zone, maybe you do have to go for it.
Yeah, man, again, it's with the top 25, you know, we just need those few games. I'm almost wondering, like, is there still a bit of those nerves? I know we're only 2 games in, but we're almost halfway through, right? We need that pop-off game.
Well, that's the thing. You have to throw the nerves out the window now as we get on to the rest of this tournament. If you need a win, you need a big game, height ultimately still is a very, very good way of going about that. Even if a lot of the other teams aren't playing it, it almost gives you that green light. But of course, if you're one of those teams that are outside of that top 25, so many other teams will be thinking to do the same. And that's when it becomes really messy, especially with these overdrive grenades. Anything can happen. So it's a bit tame right now, but of course, we'll see how things develop.
I'll be honest. I'm looking at these guys on our screen here. Deemish, Dom.
Yeah.
I think I saw, shout out to my guy Spudson, I think I saw him talking about them where he was talking about all the different EU teams that people have been bigging up going into the competition, right? People are looking at Vico Malabuka, Shark and Teeny, Sky and Skrull. Why are we not talking more about Dom and Deemish? I think they've had, I guess by their standards, maybe a slightly more quiet year compared to the quality you'd expect for them. But you can never count these guys out because every time people did over the course of last year, they overcame expectations. And I think there's a good chance we see them do that today.
Yeah, and I was speaking to their coach, Sven, and he was saying, of course, they've had a few issues. Of course, the drop spot situation this season's been really difficult. They've had to switch around. They haven't found that home. And even this weekend, they've had to switch drops as well. Of course, they're now going towards that west side of the map. And I think the key word that I use to describe these guys, particularly this season, is just adaptability. Every single time they try and change something up, they try something new. They're just such a great team together. Of course, Sven's going to be helping with that so much as well. It just seems to work for them. And that's such a valuable asset to have in this lobby in particular because, again, as I mentioned earlier, you don't know what things are going to happen. You don't know who's going to be rotating where. So if you can have that adaptability, it's going to pay dividends.
I have decided to be the designated vibe assessor and vibe monitor at the LAN. You know, watching every player's vibe, figuring out who's comfortable, who's maybe a bit nervous. Every time I've seen Deemish and Dom, they just look comfy. They don't look like a young team who has only ever played at one big LAN and maybe are still feeling a bit nervous. They just seem like ready for this occasion, and that, you know, goes a long way in these types of cups.
That's interesting, Love It, because even at the beginning of the show, when you guys had that opportunity to kind of talk with different players, there was several that were kind of like, hey, this kind of feels like home. This kind of feels like I've been here before, or I have been here this many times. Like, that is such an advantage, right? For some of these players seeing their first LAN, they're thinking, this crowd is really loud. This desk isn't my desk. I have this comfort level at home that isn't here.
Yeah, I think the beauty of us being, you know, another year into VF and CS is earlier on, right? We used to be at these events and we used to go, half the lobbies never played at a LAN, right? And it's like now you sort of look at people and you're like, no, these guys have been here, right? And you do feel that comfortability. You're right, I think it goes a long way. You don't have to think about, oh, am I gonna be all right? Am I gonna be nervous? Like, you just know what you need to do on the stage.
Look at this leaderboard. I just looked down. I took a little look. Benno, Curb. Up 9 places in 9th place right now. It's crazy, you know, when you start to look at the disparity of the points, crazy. You're like, oh, yeah, Panzer 172. What the heck? 10th place, 76. Even Darkos and Minori there. You know, these games will go any which way. But to see Curve and Benno, dude, you know, we
Hvorfor
just
var
love
det
Benno.
sådan
Benno
den
stands
fucking
here.
Arden?
I don't know Benno anymore.
Oh, sorry about that.
He's coming for my job. All that analysis
my
he was doing,
goodness.
bro.
I was shaking.
When I saw him reach for that telestrator, I said, I am finished.
Yeah, he was like, can I draw? And I was like, oh, he wants to be a commentator. He's trying to be an analyst.
You might as well have said, oh,
open for
sorry,
work.
can I take your job real quick? Instead of saying, can I draw? Because, I mean, that's what he is, though. He's a great mind in the game, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely crucial in terms of Curve's development as well. We've seen him just rising to the occasion time after time, and being with someone like Venno is going to pay dividends for him as well.
Fantastic stuff, guys. I'm getting word. The next game is ready to go. So, casters, take it away.
With EU on top of the leaderboard, NA winning back-to-back games, I had to invite a little friend on over to let us know what he's thinking about the action.
Listen, man, I was feeling too energized after watching those first two games that I had to go ahead. I had to jump on with my pals right here and get into the mix and see what's going to be happening live.
And this guy sees NAC succeeding. All of a sudden, he wants to keep the yap going. Vivid, how many teams are you going to big up here? But we're going to find out in Game 3. Ready to go.
I'm going to be hyping all of the teams while I'm up here, taking the opportunity to call out all of the boys. But we know kind of where the focus has been in the early game. I feel like Wonky Land, we got to go ahead and mention that. We got to go ahead and take a little peek that way, because if we take a look at the score overall, it's got to be 1-1. But a quick moment before we jump over there, Chapped and Flixie on the other side of the map.
Yep, 2-0 off spawn at the new Sanctuary. There was a couple of scares in game one where after those eliminations, Chap did go down, but Flixie picked him right back on up. He said, no, I'm not ready to have you go down just yet, but they get beat. They get beat by a long shot by Romero and Lewa.
Lewa and Romero have been waiting for the opportunity to strike back. They've really got to get some points building on the board, and they need it to start now before we're done with the halfway point. But trouble is still striking everywhere else. Agers and Ritual, they are chasing down Cooper, Reed, Higgs, Clicks, being absolutely ran down by Teeny and Shark. There is no escape. Vivid, you might have picked the wrong opportunity to jump on here.
Trouble in paradise. If you take a look over how good Clicks and Higgs have been doing all spawn over the past couple of days, the confidence is probably what led them to actually make the final decision to land at Wonky Land. But I can't lie, when the stakes matter, when everything matters here on the upper bracket, man, falling short.
Yeah, let's see how this off-spawn fight actually went. I did see some third-party shots coming into the mix, but Higgs gets beat off-spawn for the floor loot. Teeny takes him down. He's trying to run away, but eventually it gets all cut short. An interesting decision, though. We did not see them try to chase down Clicks as a solo, so we can see the return of Higgs.
They know that there's just too many other opportunities here, but Agers first, he's going to look to bring down Reed. Cooper somewhere left stranded now. What was originally just, pleasant vibes between the two NA teams has immediately turned into a clash here as Ritual and Agers, I feel like they're on the hunt right now for Cooper.
I mean, they should be, right? Maybe they're a little bit jealous. Hey, listen, this duo was landed at our same drop spot. They're a little bit higher up on the leaderboard. Nah, we got to take the fight to them. So Latte landing up there. We can kind of see how that one is panning out. Cooper obviously going to be wanting to run away, but it looks like Jacob Ritual and Agers are kind of on the hunt. They might have a little bit of information as to where he is currently at.
Yeah, they just realized they just want to make sure he's pushed far enough away so he can't sneak in and loot the north side of Latte Landing. So they're going to go ahead and work their way from the north all the way down to the south. And because they already have the early sense of the zone pulling towards the north, they're not in a hurry either. And this is one of the biggest changes to Latte Landing with the golden fishing spots. It's almost a guaranteed chance that they're able to get some sort of gold loadout.
And other teams are still looking to try and seal their own fates with these early off-spawn battles. Golden Knight, looking to disengage. Tinka resigns. They don't want to draw any third-party intervention here, and they're already looking to just try and create a little bit of space here. Gonna start cranking up, but there's only so much material left for them to work with here at New Sanctuary. They're gonna have to eventually look for either a fight and a refresh or just a full retreat here, but it's going to be tough because Chat Blixie, they look like they had primary control in New Sanctuary.
Kind of channeling that aggressiveness that we were talking about earlier on, right? Brazil, they love to play that aggressive game. We've heard it in interviews. It feels like the region itself just plays so fast, so aggressive. And then when you show up here on land, everything kind of slows down. So there's going to be a big adjustment here for duos like Gone and Knight. As you can see, they did try to go ahead and push Rezons and Tinka, but quickly being held off. And once they kind of reassess, are like, wait a minute, we do not have those materials to continue to play the way that we want to. Full reset, and they do got to be careful because these type of fights, they make a lot of noise for all of the other surrounding duos.
Yeah, and this is just one of those sides of the map where it can get messy from the New Sanctuary inside of that bowl to the surrounding land. It's almost hard to get out as you jump on board Peterbot and Poyo, making a quick rotation south towards Humble Hills. They're trying to go ahead and interact with some of these contested fights that we know Muzz and Sphinx, Nebs and Nathan are doing at Humble Hills. They've seen them go north, but they've been followed by Hari and Cammy. So it's interesting decisions how we're going to see them play this one out because 16 points. I don't think anybody would have guessed them this low on the leaderboard coming into game 3.
Now, things have definitely dissipated a little bit there too. 4P and Poyo, you could tell they weren't able to find anything in Humble. They're just going to default back on over to Squibbly Shores, but Pablo, Chino, here at Sandy Strip, they have plenty of company nearby, probably more neighbors than they're actually looking for, at least for the early starting measures, but Sandy Strip, we knew it was going to be triple contested since the start of this day, Jacob, and I really can't help but wonder whether or not some of these duos are going to choose to stick around.
Well, I do know for sure that Mini Pio and Fukun, they've already kind of left Sandy Strip. We do see them there now, rotating with the zone, but I was talking to Kanata in between one of those games. He said, yeah, we made them leave. We only have to deal with one team now, it's Chino and Pablo. So, I mean, I wouldn't be too excited because there are huge threats to this lobby, but at least one less team that they have to worry about.
Vico and Malabuka here towards Frigid Fortress. I feel like those first two zones were pretty favorable. Whenever we took a look at the leaderboard, pretty much every single team that landed on the northeast side of the map, I saw a little arrow upwards next to their name, obviously picking up big points, but you're going to have to go a little bit higher than that. Yapko and Panzer right now sitting pretty first place, 180 points, and I can't lie, the biggest difference, it's all in the eliminations.
And that's also a very worrying factor for so many of these other teams because we know top 25 can be forgiving, but at the same time, what if you're a duo that's trying to contest the team looking to claim their drop spot outright for finals? And that's where Cooper finds himself in a bit of a hole here currently, forced out of Latte landing by Agers and Ritual, but he had nowhere left to run to. Latte is just so far north of the map, the only places that he could look to retreat towards were straight into the hands of other duos.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate that the zone is still floating around the north side of the map, because if we had a far southern zone or even towards the northwest, but most of those teams would be out of here already. Maybe a few sprinkled around, but it'd be definitely easier than this. Getting pushed by Jargu, sliver of HP. Carillion from the other side, they pick up that elimination. And there's one thing about Carillion and Jargu. It's a team you could almost never count out. They got in through that last opportunity, switching teammates. They get into the FNCS finals at the bottom of that bubble.
And you can see their kind of slow approach to that fight as we take a look towards another fight that has seemingly reached a bit of a stalemate. We're going to be looking at a Minish and Javi. They hear that overdrive grenade go off. They're going to be taking a look. They're not going to fall short to a little bit of a fooled plan, similar to how Shark and Tini did earlier on. They can actually see the players disappear off in the distance, so they know they actually did use that grenade to go ahead and rotate out.
Like the idea there, though, from Bakusin here. They don't need to stick around. They've actually had a lot of success already on the starting point today. I believe they were in that 8th place position on the leaderboard, entering this halfway point of today's competition. So the only things really left to do is wait and see what are Gino and Pablo going to do with this legendary POI.
Oh my gosh, what are Pablo and Chino going to do with it? What is the rest of the lobby going to do with it as well? Take a look at the map. I can't even count that high, Jacob. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. I think there's like a solo in there somewhere as well. The zone seemingly is going a little bit further south of Sandy Strip, but every single team is looking to claim some early real estate towards this POI.
I think they heard you, because as you said 7, another team floated. Wait for us. We want to join the party as well. And there's so many others in the outskirts. So for Chino and Pablo, they kind of have a little bit of advantage here. They were the first to set their flag at this POI. So every team that rotates in thereafter will not know exactly where they're at, what builds are theirs. So you got to be very, very cognizant of getting caught off guard.
Size and Scary, they are one duo that is yet to throw their name into the hat for contention over by Sandy Strip. They're still hanging out near Builders Barracks, and Size, Scary, the Spaniards hoping to try and represent, but at the same time, Jacob, coming from that EU nation, they've had a lot of experience with dealing with aggressive fighting styles, and yet still here today, sitting at only 20 points.
Yeah, and I'm not too worried just yet. This is game 3, so by the time this one's over, that's when you really look at the leaderboard and see how much the point thresholds control your destiny. But coming into this one, I was thinking, okay, you need 3 decent performances maybe to get top 25, 2 pop-off games, or in some cases, if you're Yapko, Panzer, Cold Rapid, or Acorn and Bolts, you might just need 1.
Peterbot and Pollo back and forth between POIs, right? They continue to try to find some sort of successful aggression. As you can see right there, 1 elimination on Peterbot right now. I did see off screen that's actually gonna come off of the back of a reboot, so they were fully aware of the opportunity with that. And I did have sort of like a drive-by conversation with Fax today. I was like, dude, we gotta be feeling good, right? Back-to-back NA wins. He was just like, dude, I want Peterbot and Pollo to get in the mix though.
Yeah, this is just so tough though, because they are looking to get involved, but sadly, Minutes, Alco, the last thing that they ever wanted to see is Peterbot and Pollo barreling down on their position. Cammy and Hadi still hanging out by the lighthouse, though, tells me that they're just going to be looking to trail P and Pollo. They're not going to allow them to freely rotate, and that's going to potentially be a thorn in the side there for P and Pollo later on.
Yeah, huge annoyance, because they're a team that, you kind of said it yourself when you were talking to Fax, that they like to get aggressive. We want to see them get aggressive. But this isn't just an NAFNCS. This is the best of the entire world when it comes to Fortnite. You're not going to get the same opportunities. Those windows will be smaller. And I think they're learning that with each and every game goes by. And that's why you think you see a huge drastic change out of the game plan in game 3 for Peterbot and Pollo.
Yeah, and keep a close eye on all of these teams like Noah and Reason, who actually went ahead. They left Sandy a little bit earlier on, right? We did see them kind of base up on one of those tall buildings. As you can see on the north side of the zone as it currently stands, what do we have? 4 duos kind of posted up here, ready to catch all of those rotates from all of those Sandy teams that we just kind of talked about. Because the zone pulls a little bit further south, all of those teams are eventually going to have to leave Sandy, which provides a great opportunity for anybody that left early to kind of base up and get all of the damage that they might need.
Reason just being proactive, shooting out trees, preventing other duos from having the opportunity to hide behind that natural terrain coverage. Curve and Veno, though, entirely different strategy. They're still hanging out in Battlewood Boulevard. They're hoping to see if they can pick up some additional points here off the eliminations, and they might just find exactly what they're after. Hamed trying to escape. Thinks there's nowhere left to run as Veno just easily clears those 2 out with Curve.
Yeah, that's one thing I've learned on NA when Veno won his inter-regional championship from EU and NA is you don't mess with the guy in his drop spot. Multiple times in that major final, teams were trying to steal away his loot. He just chased them down and sent them packing back to the lobby, which kind of helped his game plan because of Surge. But not everybody has that luxury being uncontested. Muzz and Sphinx know that to be a fact. Nebs and Nathan are contesting them off drop. It does seem like in this game they're splitting it, but what does that do to their loadout and their confidence?
Little check-in here with Pablo and Chino. We know that they land Sandy Strip, 280 damage above right now. They're going for some troll. They're going for a little bit of a sneaky play onto some players, but everybody in the surrounding area is taking full advantage. They've done big damage on the Pablo and Chino. They're going to be forced to refresh right now. When we tune into them, they were 260 above, but as soon as they went ahead and took that fight, seemingly took about 100 damage, and their net surge dropped by just that.
Ager's Ritual, they might have been one of those duos involved. possibly even Ukun and Minifio. Shots were definitely exchanged. I don't even think it was Dharma and Demish. They just immediately coned themselves off, prevented those tags are gonna be through, but Pixie won't be able to weather the storm. Can Swizzy fare any better here? Still getting lit up by these surge tags. He has to find a full elimination, 192 below. He knows that there are players fighting nearby, but will he actually have a chance to strike?
Yeah, and he's officially on a clock. He has about 130 of HP to heal in this situation, which is not much. We're in the 5th zone. Now he's taken behind. It's going to go 2 to a 5 tick and active surge. All that damage is going to start to add up, and he is still below the damage threshold. 346. That's almost essentially 2 eliminations here that Swizzy needs to get by himself with his back pushed up against the wall. Even further now is Doxy, maybe X-Pawn as well, are trying to get elimination of their own.
Yes, Mary, no opportunity to go ahead and let Swizzy get any damage here as they're going to be using the overdrive grenades to go ahead and disengage. That is worst case scenario for Swizzy. For somebody that needs to do 300 damage, you want to be close, you want to be personal, because the shotgun is going to be your best friend. But as you can see right now, the chase is on. Not only does he need to go ahead and pick up both of these eliminations seemingly right now, but he needs to get in the zone. Finally, a tag comes in, 12 HP to work with, 2 ticks left. Swizzy's going to be going down.
There were only so many places left for Swizzy to actually venture through, and Doxy X-Pawn, they just played that one excellently. They knew that he was trapped. He had nowhere left to run to, and just like that, we're right back here at Sandy Strip, and the cube is going to be his worst nightmare right now for him.
What the fuck?
But Chino, what kind of aim course is he running over here?
I never see that, people.
That was one of the most insane things I've seen in quite a while. Not only getting the knock mid-air, but cleaning up the eliminations, and that is exactly why they land at Sandy Strip. They know teams will float around and try to use that as a mode of rotation. We've seen multiple teams, not just then, get caught out because of it.
Super hard to make those rotations when there are just so many teams around. Speaking of hard rotations, Peterbot and Pollo landed all the way on the west side of the map, had to make their way all the way over here to Sanctuary. That being said, I feel like they found themselves in a very favorable position. 500 damage above, as I say that, drop that down to 300. But they have pretty much the higher ground secured as it currently stands. We know they love to play higher ground taco. Can they actually hold on to this throughout the rest of the game?
This is definitely the best sort of position that we have seen Peterbot and Pollo all 3 games so far today. Sky Scroll, on the other hand, though, way off in the distance, separated from the rest of the lobby, trying to see if they can just break in to the edge of zone, hoping that they get a chance to try and take out any duos that might be looking to try and cut them off, but instead will find a secure position to start tarping out, securing space, and now they can take the chance to look back.
Yeah, this is the point in the game where you have to stay alive. You've been in it for 7 zones. There's 26 teams. One more fall. Get those placement points, so you don't want to have to look back and say, we wasted a lot of opportunities here throughout the tournament. Placement points are now starting to come in. 25 teams still up. But you see 49 players. That means someone in this lobby is running around as a solo.
Malabuka and Vico, right? They almost found the opportunity right there on Yuma and Koyoto. As you can see right now, the zone is actually pulling north. And when a pull like this happens, any team that's already based up here is going to have the opportunity to pick up the higher ground. And that's going to be Yuma and Koyoto as it currently stands. Tuning in with Sky and Scroll. We just looked at these guys 45 seconds ago. They had 21 materials to their name. Elims are going to be helping out with that.
And that's exactly where Sky was able to get the party started here with Chance and Tyler. The moment that they claim that front side low ground position, they are right back in the most comfortable driving seat. That's exactly where they had so much success in the EU Major 1 finals, and it looks like they finally managed to replicate it here in Game 3. But Demish, Darm, talk about a duo that has been on the upswing all 3 games so far today. They've just been establishing their own territory. But Vico Malabuka, big knock opportunity here, taking out Veno.
Yeah, they don't even necessarily need this fight. 3 players
Watching
go down,
something
no
and
more
I need to
scores.
move.
1100
Why I
for
need to
them.
move
Some
to
shots
watch
coming in, so they're
them.
gonna fall down just a little bit,
not.
but they're holding their ground. They know they have extra materials, so they're not afraid to overbuild and spend those mats.
Taking a look bottom right, I see Sky and Scroll already kind of establishing that low ground that they are known for. Cold and Rapid throughout the day, they've been known for coming out
Yeah,
swinging,
the two
right?
bad team
Winning
beat the butt
game
and
number one.
Sky
But I would imagine now that all the other teams are kind of feeling
game
comfortable
now.
towards the higher ground, maybe they go
I
ahead
don't know what
and go
happened.
back to what they're used
Fast
to.
2 game,
But
but
even with this elevation not really being a huge turning point because we are in that south section of the map. Teeny Shark, they're still on the high ground. They're still looking to take players out along the way. Shark able to help bring down Yapko, and they are still looking
they're
for
not
more.
good
Jay,
for
with the team
kids.
targeting overhead, but you are never safe. You are not high enough to avoid the rest of the lobby just yet.
Yeah, especially in a meta where you got Shockwave and you got that Fizz Grenade. So you gotta expect things to happen at a moment's notice. Even Hari Kami trying to go ahead and Shockwave forward, but they stayed on both separate ends for Sky and Scroll. They're making sure nobody can get a free flank. Meanwhile, Peterbot and Poyo, they're in the thick of it down below. They're trying to get as much damage, maybe even elimination. As of now, they're good on their loadout. They're good on loot, but they know eventually they're going to need an elimination.
So easy for this duo to quickly kind of change targets. Why nobody is pretty much safe when you are anywhere near that duo. They're going to be needed an elimination, and just as I say that, Rezon finds himself on the opposite side of things. Peterbot's going to be dropping down. The mats come in, but now they go ahead and need to make the rotation necessary that they need, and I'm sure we're going to be finding another elim that they're going to need, of course.
Well, we saw a big solo clutch for placement points out of Vico in the last lobby. Can Malabuka do the same here in game 3? Overdrive grenade with a little bit of a stimmy effect on the movement, but look at Cold and Rapid. Isolated in the mid-ground, trying to take out players as they look back. Sky and Scroll, though, just left to their own devices here, completely trying to shut down what Cringe and Twy have going on, but instead, they'll find themselves looking to stay moving forward. They still want to control front side. They still want to make sure that nobody else is going to be able to take over.
Yeah, sometimes for Sky and Scroll, you need to stumble before you wake up and start to play to your full potential. And this game is a real example of that. Same thing for Rapid and Cold. They won game 1, and then they had a huge hurdle in their path for game 2, and this is a chance to make up for it. Meanwhile, Vico, Malabuka, one of the most consistent teams we have still alive in this lobby, even as a solo, as Peterbot tries to run down one, but he's the one that ends up falling. Poyo now alive, but shots coming in from all directions. You see him scrambling around, trying to build and protect himself until he officially runs out of mats.
Wow, to see what Poyo can do right here, trying to find some sort of calm in the chaos right now as he takes one quick breath right here. Malabuka, no opportunity for him to kind of slow down right now. He's kind of feeling the pressure from duos all around him. He's going to be taking the opportunity to go ahead and jump into the storm as Scroll and Sky, look how comfortable these guys must feel. They have claimed the low ground.
Thomas and Focus had the right idea. They wanted that front side level. Poyo still doing it. Resigns, taken out. Malabuka now as a solo won't be able to keep the ball rolling here as Sky finds that elimination, but now back on height, it's Rapid and Cold already looking to try and drop a little bit further. He wants the refreshes, he wants the eliminations, he knows that he can trust Rapid to just hold things down on height, but Poyo trying to take out Teeny. It's an even exchange here, but Poyo coming out on top because Twy is no longer in existence.
Yeah, gets that elimination, almost stolen by Cold and Rapid up above, but now they drop down. They said, hey, we're not gonna steal that one, but they're gonna take you out. Cold and Rapid on top, on high ground right now. Winners of game 1. Sky and Scroll are EU FNCS champions, and then you have Cringe. He can play the Thorn in this entire mix.
But take a look at Rapid. He's looking for opportunities to go ahead and help secure this 2v2. He's trying to pick up all the materials that he possibly can, trying to look for some angles. The overdrive grenade comes up. Sky and Scroll want to take the fight to Cold and Rapid. Scroll does that, finds the Elan, finds the knock on the Cold. They're going to be looking for the opposing player as well. Rapid, though, somehow, amongst all the chaos, ends up on height.
And Scroll, just like that, realizes his duo's in trouble, but Scroll, he's gonna take over. Rapid has been eliminated now, the 1 versus 1. This is everything right now for Sky and Scroll to finally get their chance to strike back. Cringe from overhead, he gets the leverage. Scroll with only 2 builds remaining. Can he find the closing shot? Just needs to get that max hit off the chaos reloader, but sure enough, Scroll can't do it. Cringe has won it out, and that's gonna be game 3 for Cringe.
Still do damn post though. A 14-year-old side note.
We have Cringe and the shadows, and like thieves in the night, these guys have just stolen away game 3 at the Major 1 Summit land. You got to imagine at this point in time, when you're playing that long as a solo, to come out on top and actually win the game, they have to be feeling great.
Cringe and try. Can you believe you just took down Sky and Scroll?
Sky and Scroll, really?
It was Sky and Scroll. It was that 2v2 situation. Talk me through it.
I mean, like, shit was just easy, I'm not gonna lie.
Really? Was it really that easy? Because it looked quite tense for all of us watching.
I mean, bro, it wasn't that easy. He had to solo clutch it.
Well, you know what? British players, you know, we have to talk a big game. So talk to me about your game then. What is the plan here in Dusseldorf?
I mean, you just run around, eliminate everyone, and just win every endgame you make.
And it's interesting because I feel like some of the European teams have actually struggled with the zones with Net Surge. How have you been finding it?
Net Surge? I mean, you just run deep and chill. That's about it.
So all you got to do is just W that key.
Yeah.
Yeah? King the W?
Yeah.
So, Dusseldorf, what do we think of Cry and Cringe? Okay, then that's 3 games done. We're going to have a short break. When we come back, we'll be assessing all the action so far.
Yeah, kid need to do something different or kid play tomato in Lotto Pocket.